Hi, my name is Jessica and I'm one of the street art tour guides for Free Tours by Foot London. I've been guiding street art tours in this part of town for nearly a decade, ever since I moved here from my hometown of Vancouver, Canada, where I was also a tour guide. I absolutely love guiding street art in London's East End. I live nearby, I know a lot of these artists, I have some of their art hanging on my wall at home, and I love showing off all of the amazing stuff. Today we are going to walk around, we're going to see posters, paste ups, stickers, sculptures, street art, graffiti. We're going to talk about the difference, what is street art, what is graffiti. We're going to talk about famous street artists, past, present, and future, including, of course, the most iconic, Banksy, which we're going to finish off seeing 2 pieces by Banksy, and we are going to explore things that are this big all the way up to 4 stories tall, and absolutely everything in between. Now let's start off and have a look at this piece by Zaboo. Now, we can only ever see this piece on Sunday mornings because every other day of the week and in the evenings, this hair salon, Luke Jacobs, is open for business. And so Sunday mornings, we can actually get a look at it. And right now, it's early Sunday afternoon. And this piece is actually the 3rd piece that Zaboo has done on this shutter. She completely has permission to do this. This is not illegal graffiti. This is not somebody who's just rocked up in the middle of the night with some paint cans. She knows the owner, she's worked with them, and this is actually the 3rd different Salvador Dali piece that she's put up on this business's shutter. Now this one here, I absolutely love. You've got Dali, the famous Spanish surrealist, with this cat and his very on-trend pink leopard print blazer. This used to just be done in black and gold. And as you can see, sometimes people come along and they tag it. They spray their name. Sometimes they use big felt markers and just tag their name. Some of them are actual kind of graffiti writers, they're known. Other times it's just somebody who's drunk and got their hands on a marker. And when that happens a bit too much, Zaboo will usually come out and make something new here. She will usually fix it up, either paint a completely new image, or she's gonna just freshen it up. In this case, she painted a completely new Dali. Before this one, there was a different Dali, and before that, it was Edward Scissorhands, which I think is a brilliant image for a hair salon. Zaboo is from Paris. She is really well known in London for this like pop cartoon comic book style, and actually this one is especially realistic for her. We might see some more by her, but even if we don't, you should keep an eye out in your own home city, especially in London, for more pieces by this artist. Now let's walk just up here around the corner. We've got some more work on the shutter. These are big tags. We're going to talk about big tags a little bit as we go. We've got an absolutely stunning day here in London today. Temperature is expected to hit 30, that's 86 Fahrenheit for my American friends. And we're heading down Fashion Street. Now, a lot of the names of the streets in this area of the East End all have to do with tailoring and fashion. That's because historically, 17th century, the French Huguenots were here and they were tailors. And then Jewish tailors, then Bangladeshi tailors. So the names really work well. Now, flip around here. We're gonna have a look at this fence. Now this fence has been painted by Auntie and Sam Sher for the last couple of years. I would say about the last 6-7 years, every now and then on a Sunday morning, I come rocking around this corner and there's Sam Sher and Auntie painting up. They've got music, they don't look like what you might think of as the typical graffiti artist though. They've got, you know, maybe a little thinning on top, cool guys, middle-aged. They look like they should be at their kids' football game, not necessarily out painting. But together, as a crew, they've been painting for over 30 years, and they love, or 25, 30 years, they love painting on this fence. And the fence actually belongs to what used to be a car hire business next door, and they just kind of have this, I don't want to say permission, but it's like a loose understanding. Now, you can see these big tags here. This just started up in the late 70s, early 80s. Black artists in cities like New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, taking small tags and making them bigger and bigger and bigger. This is a great example. If you have a look at it, you can see very clearly that it says the word ante, like up the ante in a poker game. And they're, just because we're in the age of social media, of course we've got to actually have the Instagram handle here too. By the way, if you're ever out taking photos of street art and you see that someone has signed it with their social media tag, make sure to include that in your photo. It just helps them get the credit that they deserve for their work. Now, you got Auntie, and then you've got Sam Sure on the other end, and right in the middle, we've got, oh, not to get too political, we've got everybody's favorite, Bojo the Clown. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's Boris Johnson. Yeah, obviously they're not too big a fan. This has actually been here for about 2.5 years. I was really expecting this to change up during the pandemic, but I think it's actually quite fitting that it hasn't. And street art is political. It's always political. What other kind of art can you get a political message up that same day, right? With other forms of art, it takes a little bit longer. With social media these days, of course, things are instant too, but graffiti and street art, it's instant. You don't have to hire a gallery, buy wine and cheese, send out invites. You can react to the day's news right there and then. I remember when Robin Williams died, there was tribute pieces up later that same day. That's how quickly it can react. Now come and look further up. For my Canadians, look up, look way up. You can see this little piece right up at the top. This is a little example of some of the street sculpture that you're gonna see while you're out, while you're walking around, if you look around. Look up, look down, look all around. This is a piece, it's been here for about, I noticed it about 8 years ago, but maybe it's been here even longer. And of course, little sculptures like this are really at risk of being, yoink, nicked off the wall, stolen off the wall. That's a part of it. When you're a street artist and you're gonna put something up on the wall, you know that there's a really good chance that your little work is gonna get ruined, painted over, tagged, or stolen. Now, that one, I think, is just out of the average sightline. By the way, it's by an artist called Himbad. Himbad makes pieces that are completely all different styles. We're gonna see a different piece by Himbad later on that's 3 stories tall, and you're not gonna believe it's the same artist. There's so much more to show you here. I don't want to just stand here and talk all day, but I could. This is like a little art gallery. Just this little brick wall is its own art gallery. And I mean, it's like a microcosm of the street art world. By the way, the East End of London is well known to be one of the best street art destinations in the world. And I want to just point out this absolutely amazing piece here. This is by an artist called Dreff. Dreff's a Black London artist, and he is passionate about promoting the work of other Black London artists. Not just street artists, graffiti artists, but gallery artists, different kinds of musicians, writers. And this work that he's done is part of his series called You Are Enough, where he did a whole series of Black female artists, all different parts around London. Dreff's got a master's in fine arts. He's also a graffiti writer. So I cannot tell you how annoying, one of my biggest pet peeves are when people say, oh, I love street art, but I don't like that graffiti stuff. I don't like that tag. Listen, man, you don't have this without this. And I don't want to live in a world with only one of the two. Street art's not meant to be sanitized. It's not meant to be something that is sponsored and approved and voted on by a local board. What I love about East London is this sense of lawlessness, where you have everything, and you have stuff from tags to murals and everything in between. And that keeps it fresh and creative. When you have just big sponsored murals, you're gonna have only one kind of street art. Back to this one for a second. Dreff paints artists. He also paints people of kind of cultural significance in the area. Now, how does she end up getting up here? Well, Tracy Blackstock is an amazing woman, youngest of 9 children, born to Jamaican parents, and has gone on to complete a master's degree in psychology. But it's not just that, she's also the mother of one of Dreff's sons. So that's how she ends up here on this wall. Absolutely stunning piece of quite realistic art. But let's look at a completely different style of art just across the street. This elephant by Falco 1. Now, Falco 1 is an artist from South Africa, and this is he came to London visiting about, I would say about 4 years ago, this piece was done. And how does he get such a great piece? Well, it was helped out by Dreff. One of Dreff's kind of modus operandi is that he helps out other black artists, even if they're visiting from other countries. And Falco 1 ends up using Jeff's amazing connections with the owner of a lot of these buildings, it's the same guy, and gets this shutter. And Knockwood, every piece along this area gets tagged, but the elephant never has. I wonder if it's because people drunk at night or taggers just have a special spot in their heart for the elephant like I do. I love this wall of paste ups. First of all, you've got this really Picasso-esque ballerina by Neo. And Neo does a lot of work around mental health issues and the NHS, access to the NHS, which is our health service in the UK. I love this ballerina. It's been there almost a decade, maybe even longer. But here you've got so many cool paste ups. Let's have a look at a few of them. I absolutely love the paste ups here by Ben Ryder. I've got a piece by Ben Ryder up on my wall at home. You can see the same one here, Ultra Power and Thrills. Ben Ryder, if you want to buy art by a lot of these street artists, check out their Instagram. They often have shops. They might have a big cartel shop. There's also some galleries in London, like Stolen Space Gallery, the Nellie Duff, that sell prints and posters by a lot of these street artists. Oh, here's another one by Ben Ryder. There you've got your queen, the lizard queen, and tons of other cool ones here. I love Neon Savage. These like very retro Disney, like 1930s Disney style cartoons, 3 eyes on top of printed book pages. Right above there, Georgie Artist has done something really self-referential. So street art loves to reference itself. Street art and graffiti loves to reference other street art and graffiti. So with this piece here, Georgie is referencing not only Andy Warhol, the famous Campbell soup tins, but Georgie is also referencing a Banksy piece. Banksy did a piece kind of mimicking or referencing Andy Warhol by doing Tesco soup, Tesco value soup. Tesco is a supermarket chain here in the UK, and it's not really considered a aspirational brand, so that was Banksy's kind of play on it. Instead of Warhol's Campbell's soup, you had this Tesco soup, but now Georgie's gone one step further, referencing both of those previous artists in conversation to talk about cream of food bank soup, and it's not Tesco value, it's Tories value. Again, if you're not familiar with British politics, Tories is the nickname for the Conservative Party, and again, that's that reference to Boris Johnson that we just saw. How about another couple of pieces here referencing pop culture, referencing consumer culture, like Georgie? We've got Endless Artist. Endless has been doing paste ups in this area for as long as I've been doing tours, which again, about a decade. You could see referencing Chanel instead, it's Chapel, Whitechapel. That's kind of one of the areas that we're almost in right now. Right now we're on like the border of Whitechapel, Brick Lane, Spitalfields, and always making fun of different, not necessarily making fun, but critiquing, ad busting, lampooning brands and corporate culture. I absolutely love these. This is D7606, and you can see the faces have been blocked out, but originally these are all Liz Taylor. Someone's just come with a silver marker and blocked them out. It happens, it's constant, it's a conversation, street art, and street artists know, paste up artists know that if they're gonna put something up on the street, it's gonna get tagged, it's gonna get defaced. There's actually a famous street art crew called the Deface Crew. But D7606, by the way, always does like really beautiful female icons and androgynous and non-binary icons, people like David Bowie and Prince as well. Some more stuff here. Oh, wait, okay. So we are going to see a lot, I am sure, of Subdued. Subdued does a few different, and that's spelled S-U-B-D-U-D-E, like a subdued. Subdued does pieces that are kind of making fun of social media. All right, that's a little bit of a tired trope, but he does a lot of these political cartoons that we're going to see a bit later on that I think are actually some of them are quite smart. Some of them are a bit offensive. They're offensive on purpose. You can just see there's no surface that has been left untouched with these paste ups. Paste up walls come and go. Paste up walls, for instance, that piece by Dreff that we saw of Tracy Blackstock, that used to be a paste up wall. But if you're a business owner, if you're a homeowner, or if you own an office here, you're more likely to maybe aesthetically value a mural than a paste up wall, because over time, you know, their nature, they become tatty. They fall off the wall, the weather gets them, and not everybody loves the way this looks. I love the way it looks, but not everybody loves the way that it looks. Again, still walking down Fashion Street. These buildings were derelict in the 60s and 70s. Some of them were derelict, some of them were used in fashion and trade industry, industry. Today, a lot of them have been restored, almost all of them have been restored, worth millions and millions of pounds now. Now, here is one of my favorite artists. Personally, he's absolutely such a nice guy, so friendly, easy to talk to, and does a lot of street art and graffiti for good causes as well. So this is by Mr. Senz. That is spelled C-E-N-Z. Mr. Senz has been doing street art and graffiti. This style here, this digital futurism, this is the style of what he calls this style, is more recent. He started doing tags. So for all you folks who might think, oh, tags aren't really to my taste, they're a part of this culture and a really important part. So let's have a look at Mr. Senz's tag. It's still here. He uses it to sign the word. It's right here. You can all read this says Mr. Senz, right? Right? No, come on. I can't read that it says Mr. Senz, but I know that symbol really well. If I see this, I know that it's a Mr. Senz piece, and actually I can just tell from his style. Now, Mr. Senz has used quite a few different mediums and techniques here. I saw him do this piece. He's got some stencil work, so you've got some stencils helping him get this kind of cardiac line. You've got some airbrushing, getting this, and sorry, that's just really good can control. Sometimes airbrushing, when you see these colors blending into one another, and other times it's just exquisite can control. It means that someone is really, really good at controlling that pressure of spray paint coming out of the can. Doing something like this color blending with just spray paint cans is absolutely amazing. And we have one of the most iconic, one of the most favorite pieces. This is for you if you've got a little bit of a soft heart. You don't have to admit it, but if you like kind of heartwarming stories, check this piece out by AKA Jimmy C. Jimmy C's real name, James Cochran. He started as a digital artist, and he has since gone on to become really one of the most well-known, and I'm going to say it, well-paid street artists in London. He's done a lot of gallery shows. I remember a couple of years ago he did a gallery show at the Lollipop Gallery nearby. He had about 10 canvases that were 3/4 the size of this wall, and they were priced at around £6,000 each, and it was a sold-out show. So not doing too bad. He also was commissioned to paint Instagram's London offices. So that is a pretty good client to have if you're a visual artist, getting Instagram on side. Now this one is a little bit different. First of all, a lot of people tell me that this reminds them of Impressionism. It does. It looks a little bit like Monet. You've got all of these little drippy daubs and dots. So he's painted it, and then he's gone over top with this kind of almost mosaic effect from a distance, but up close you can see it's got this impressionist effect. We're going to see another piece by Jimmy C later on that has a similar kind of effect done in a really different way. But this piece was done for this business. So this shop used to be called Joe's Kid. Now it's a pho restaurant. Absolutely love pho, love Vietnamese food, but this was just a coffee and cake and sandwich shop called Joe's Kid. And the owner of Joe's Kid, this is a picture of her when she was a little girl and her grandpa Joe. Oh, right, it's a very sweet picture. And she commissioned Jimmy C to do this. So she actually hired him to come and paint this on the side of the shop. And you see that happen a lot in areas of the East End, in Shoreditch. You get businesses that want to, as they open, they want to hire a street artist. And sometimes they'll hire some pretty heavy hitters, some pretty big street artists to come and paint on the outside of their shop. Again, when this was open, people would take pictures of it and it would go on Instagram, and that's some nice free advertising for Joe's Kid, which sadly didn't last. It's kind of a weird spot. It's not on the main street. So this is fully paid for, fully commissioned. Jimmy C would have been paid the going rate for this. However, let's contrast it with what's going on just across the street. So you can see this really skinny metal shutter over here. I'll go and point it out. This is by an artist called Hunto. Again, I said Neo reminded me of Picasso, but Hunto also reminds me of Picasso in a really different way. Hunto has done all of these faces on the side of a cost price, which is a food shop chain, like a corner shop, like a corner store or a bodega shop for my American friends, and I guess that's just New York. This one is a little bit different. This was done, Hunto didn't have permission from Cost Price to do this, or Cost Price didn't ask Hunto to do this. Hunto didn't ask Cost Price if he could do it, but it was fully legal. There's a liaison in the middle called Global Street Art. Now these days, Global Street Art has morphed into being more like an ad agency, but back even 5-6 years ago, Global Street Art was more like a nonprofit organization that promoted street art classes and promoted graffiti classes, etc. And what they would do is walk around areas that had a lot of street art, like the East End. They would look for blank shutters, like this one, and they would approach the shop and they would say, hey, do you want some art? And then they would find an artist and they would match them up together. And that's exactly what happened here with Hunto. So again, legal, different kind of legal. I can't walk by without talking about RX Skulls from San Francisco. Really popular for posters, paste ups, stickers, and I've actually seen him do actual stencils and painted art as well. Really iconic. Always doing drops in London. That's a really nice fresh paste up. Now we're fully on to Brick Lane. And I always like to ask my groups if they notice the hidden secretive street art in the area. There's a lot of stuff that people don't notice. And what I mean by that is you look at the thing, you look at the damn thing every day, and you don't see it. We are all guilty of this. And that's why on vacation or on holiday, we're really good at seeing new things because we're not used to just staring at it every day. For instance, local Londoners, Brick Lane residents don't notice this, but tourists do. So have a look at the street sign there, the one way. This is by, you can see, the heart right in the middle of the arrow, totally changing the meaning of the street sign. This is by a Parisian artist, so he lives in Florence, called Clet Abraham. If you've been to Florence, or if you're planning to go to Florence, he's got an entire shop there, or he did before the pandemic, not sure what's going on with that. He sells stickers and stencils where you can do this. I happen to know that this is by Clet Abraham. He came and did this here. There's quite a few other ones on Brick Lane. You gotta keep your, and I've seen them in Soho too. Keep your eyes peeled for them. He just likes to change up the meaning of the street signs, and it's just subversive in this really subtle way. People look at this one-way sign constantly without actually seeing what's there. Now before we go around the corner, which we're going to do, I want to show you one other bit of hidden street art that people always have a hard time seeing. But that's why you're with me, because I'm going to show you all this stuff. And that's this little itty bitty pig. Now normally I'd make you look for it if you were on the street art tour with me, but I am going to just show you. This is by an artist called Love P. Penbrink. That's made out of gypsum, which is like this really hard, it's the same stuff that like drywall's made out of, I think. And she actually got her start as a ceramicist. So she used to make teacups and things like that. And Love P. Penbrink, or Love Pie Penbrink. And now she makes these little street art sculptures. And this one's got a little googly eye, kind of looks like a Smurf. Check this out. This is with oil pastels. I can tell because I can feel it. This is a guy called Sellout Art. Sellout Art does a few different pieces of crazy faces. These almost remind me of Basquiat in the style that he's done. He also does sculptures made out of trash. And I am lucky enough to know Sellout in that I've seen him around about 24 times in the last couple of years making these sculptures. Some of his sculptures last 10 minutes and other ones last days and days or weeks. Sometimes the rain hits them and they kind of melt, and other times they just last for a really long time. But this is like, yeah, kind of a creepy skull you could see on the entire wall. Just a quick piece here. Argentinian artist Un Color Destino. Very whimsical, strange, bright colors. You know, this one's been here for quite a few years. I'm always surprised to see that it's still here. Walls change quite regularly, legal and illegal walls, but other times you get ones that have just been there for ages and ages. So that's a good example of one like that. Ah, brilliant. All right. Whenever you come around the corner as a street art tour guide and a lover of street art, you're never sure what is going to still be there because, right, something could be gone. It could be completely painted over. It could be tagged beyond all recognition. But I love this piece by Phlegm. Yeah, you heard me right. Phlegm, like, not the nicest name, but one of my favorite street artists in terms of producing interesting content, not just on the street, but also graphic novels and comic books. Now, Phlegm is from the Midlands, I want to say, and creates these really strange, surreal people and buildings. And what I love about this piece, and if you look on your screen, you can see some of the buildings look like they're popping out towards you. And that's because they are. This Phlegm's used what are either ventilation shafts or chimney breasts, I'm not sure, to put the buildings on to give them that 3D effect. And we'll see a different 3D effect in a minute at a different piece of art. But this is really cool, playing with your perception. And these little characters that he does, they almost remind me of Quentin Blake, the illustrator from the Roald Dahl books. So it's kind of these strange little people. Now if you look, you tend to see that murals like this last a bit longer when they're high up, because it's harder for an average Joe to come with his can and just go, right. Now I'm pretty short, but even if I were a foot taller, right, you can really only tag to the height of your arm without needing a ladder, scaffold, a cherry picker. Sometimes they use those, but you can see that this one, yeah, it's been really tagged up on the bottom here, but then you've got, like, I think it's quite sweet that he's almost floating on this sea of tags. Wow, look at this metaphor of like street art resting on a foundation of messy tags. That's exactly the history of street art, right? Now, this is one of my group's favorite pieces. It's one of my favorite pieces. This brings a smile to everybody's face when they see it, and it plays with this 3D differently than Phlegm did around the corner. So this is Fanakapan, or Mr. Fan. You can see his name just way down in the corner here, this little fan. But this fan always does pieces having to do with shape, 3D crystals, balloons, ice, smoke. These are all different elements that I've seen him play with. And Fanakapan, these balloons look like trompe-l'oeil. They look, that's a term in art that is used to mean like it's so realistic you look like you can pluck it off the wall. It looks like it's bulging out at you. And these balloons certainly do. And of course, everybody loves this little guy. It's the grumpy little old man from Up, the Pixar film, sorry. And it says Up Yours. Now, for those who don't know, I mean, you can just Google it, but up yours, not every country, not every place uses it. It's a British expression that means up your you-know-what. It's a way to tell somebody where to go, to tell them to, up yours. And so it's quite funny that this little grumpy old man, everybody always wishes that the dog was in the picture, but, it's still really, really cool. I always get my tour guests to stop and stand and look around, and they don't always find what I'm asking them to find. And what I'm asking them to find right here is on the top of this pole, this little sculpture. It's by an artist called Jonesy. Remember I told you that street artists come in all ages? Jonesy is in his 60s or 70s. He's also anonymous. I have seen him do street art. I've seen him installing stuff, so I know roughly that he's an older chap. Another piece by Sellout. You can see what I mean here, like the oil pastels. This one's, yeah, very Basquiat. See this little bitsy guy? It's funny, as a street art tour guide, sometimes you don't point things out because you think nobody will notice them, or maybe they're not to your personal taste. So I sometimes see something and I don't even think about it because I didn't really like it or it didn't really resonate with me. And so I never used to point these guys out, but people freaking love them. This is by an artist called Sten and Oli, and he makes these little, you can see it's rougher, it's a worse for wear. It's been around for a while, but we'll see a lot more of these as we go. This is a derelict pub. It has some residences upstairs, 7 Stars Bar and Cafe. I think this building is grade 2 listed. For my non-British friends, that means that it can't be knocked down. Again, the entire, it's got a heritage protection order on it. So the entire outside is just like, boom, look at this. This is an art gallery. Here's the Tate Modern, right? Here's the British Museum. Well, British Museum's not art. anthropology, but still, like, here's an entire museum on one wall, and it's constantly changing, always something new. And you can see there's just so many different bits of street art. There's a nice, the Princess of Camden Town, Amy Winehouse. There's great street art in Camden Town too. Is that Pete Doherty? We got Pete Doherty next to Amy Winehouse. I wish, maybe they shouldn't be next to each other, the bad influences. I think this is, again, Boris Johnson, always gonna have people making reference to politics. I think we're gonna have some more politics around the corner.
So if you're enjoying the tour so far, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps others discover the video. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, subscribe to our channel. We have walks along the Thames, through Westminster, Camden, all over London. Visit our website for more about our tours, our travel tips, and more. We also have virtual tours and channels that focus on DC, New Orleans, New York, and more. Look for free tours by foot wherever you travel. You can support your guide with virtual tips, links in the description, and let us know what else you want to see. Leave a comment below. Now, back to the tour.
I love these paste ups by Ida Wild, who does text-based paste ups. Life is an effing unicorn, etc., etc. Also here, Daddy, I want an effing pony. She sells prints of these. You can buy them online. You can also buy them in different art galleries. And remember earlier I pointed out Subdued, and I said he was doing some pieces involving social media, but that he also did a lot of political stuff. And here's all of these different political paste ups. So some of them, again, some of them offensive. The content on this wall does not necessarily represent the opinions of Free Tourists by Foot or your guide Jessica, but you can just see, you know, serial killer, Voldemort, Jacob Rees-Mogg, an important figure in British politics, quite funny. Captain Corona, that's Jair Bolsonaro. Mark Zuckerberg, you know, you just got loads and loads of different political figures, news figures. So yeah, lots of cool stuff here. I just love checking out whatever is new. And of course, lots of stuff representing that occurred during the pandemic. So talking about NHS funding, etc. This courtyard is a really good example of what's kind of happening in Brick Lane. This entire courtyard used to be all street art. Now part of it has been, there's a new building up, and so there used to be a new street art piece, street art pieces in every one of these parking stalls, but now there's just a few, and they don't change as often as they used to do. This is called Star Yard. I guess Star Yard's kind of played out. It used to be one of the biggest destinations on any street art tour, but things change, and I like that they change. I don't want things to stay the same all the time, especially with street art. Check out another piece by this one's art. Again, okay, I'm confident that this is a chicken. My bird identification is bang on. Or a rooster, oh my God, never mind. Is that Tizer? I don't think it looks like Tizer, but Tizer normally signs his name really prominently, maybe Tizer. This is another piece by Fanakapan. So you can see that this is very similar to the artist who we saw, or sorry, it is the same artist who did the Up Yours. And I could tell it's him instantly, just from the can work, just from the style, and because it's a silver balloon. That's usually one of his main styles here. Fan, again, his name. What I want you to look at here, look at the apex of the N. You see in the top of the N, look at the reflection of the building behind. So not only is this capturing the light really well, it's actually capturing the distorted reflections just the way that it would be in a balloon. This is jaw-dropping to me, and I think to a lot of people as well. Oh, this is cool. I don't actually know who did this, but this skull with the, oh yeah, 40HK. This is a tag, but I love on top the skeleton, or the skull and the spray paint can. That's awesome. I'm gonna take a picture for my own Instagram. All right, just winding our way a little bit. We're on Fournier Street, another one of the French Huguenot streets. Just tons of different paste ups here. Absolutely love this one with all the strange brain and eyes. Not sure who that is. People, by the way, people always ask me, how do I know who did all of them? And let me tell you that part of it is just being here for a long time, okay, and knowing a lot of the artists. But I'll tell you a trick. Okay, you're walking through your city, you see some street art, and you want to know who it's by because maybe you want to buy a piece, or you just like to know, or you want to tag them. There's no name on it. Easy. Okay, what you can do is you look at the hashtag in your neighborhood street art. So for instance, if there's a piece here, this paste up, the braid, if I want to find out who that is, which I do, so I will look this up, I'm going to Google, or not Google rather, I'm going to look at the hashtag on Instagram, Brick Lane Street Art, and Brick and London Paste Ups. I'm going to scroll through, and I can guarantee you that someone who knows who this is, or the street artists themselves, is going to have tagged it with one of those tags, and you're going to be able to find out who it is. Okay, so earlier we saw a piece by Zaboo from Paris, kind of like almost pop arty portraits, and that was the Salvador Dali that we saw, and I said we might see another one. Well, we're seeing one that's new to me. Again, I love guiding this tour. I gotta tell you that when I do like a Jack the Ripper tour, that story hasn't really changed much in the last 120 years, but street art tour changes every single time I do it. And check this out. Massive Audrey Hepburn mural. I knew instantly looking at it that it was by Zaboo, and that was just clarified when I looked at the door. You can see there her name is written in her typical style, and this absolutely stunning mural of Audrey Hepburn just gives this building such an amazing look and feel. If you're wondering, you want to paint your house, why not hire Zaboo to paint the exterior? Your neighbors might not be too happy, but I would be happy if you did that. All right, we're gonna head back down this street. So on the tour, there are always a couple of pieces that are the highlights, and sometimes it's because people just really resonate with them. You're always gonna have your own favorite piece, but there's some pieces that are genuinely really famous. And of course, we're gonna see some Banksy stuff at the end of the tour, but this is one of the most famous pieces, not just on Brick Lane, but I would say in London, and maybe even one of the most famous pieces in the world. It's in a lot of British school textbooks these days. This is by Stick, S-T-I-K. No, but 20 years ago, maybe even longer, I've been doing this tour a long time. I feel like I've been saying 20 years for too long. But Stick was homeless, suffering with mental health and addiction issues, and he began to do street art in this very Stick style. 7 lines, a circle, arms, body, legs. And I don't want to say that it was a piss take, but it was a little bit of a way to say, oh, street art is popular in the East End, lots of graffiti. This is his style of graffiti and street art. So even if you don't think you're an amazing artist, like somebody like Zaboo or Dreff, you can do stick figures, and if you've got an interesting point of view and an interesting artistic message behind it, you can become one of the most famous street artists in the world, because Stick now sells his little, you can buy a stick yourself, just on an A4 piece of paper, and they're about 600 quid, 600 pound, which for my American friends, that's about $1,100, $1,000. Now this piece has a lot. Now why has it become so famous? Yes, Stick's cool. He's now clearly not homeless. He does a lot of street art initiatives working with people with mental health issues, as well as the elderly and kids, bringing them together to create street art and graffiti together. But why is this piece especially famous? It's because of the message that it has in this area. As we've mentioned a couple of times on this tour, Brick Lane, the East End, is got a really large Bangladeshi population. And there's always been Bangladeshi people and Indian people in London for hundreds of years. I would probably even say for thousands of years. But in terms of having a large Bangladeshi population, this really happened in the early 1970s when you had the war between India and Pakistan, and when Bangladesh used to be called East Pakistan. And tens of thousands of Bangladeshi refugees came to live in London and other places around the world. And today, I think the East End is one of the most culturally diverse areas. I'm not going to use the word tolerant, because people here aren't tolerant of each other. They're genuine friends and neighbors and live together with complete harmony. In some cases, everybody gets irritated at their neighbors sometimes. But just to give you an idea, this area voted 85% Remain in the Brexit referendum, because people understand that having a lot of cultures living together is what makes London, London. And in terms of the Bangladeshi community, though, historically, there was a lot of racism, and I'm sure people still face racism today. I'm not the one to be talking about people's personal experiences. However, as a historian, I can tell you that there was a number of race-motivated murders against Bangladeshi men that occurred in the 1970s and 80s. And there was even here in the late 1990s a nail bomb that exploded further up the way in Brick Lane by a white supremacist terrorist who exploded nail bombs in different parts of the country. There's a Netflix documentary about that. So why am I bringing this up here? Well, this piece, in terms of Stick's rationale of doing this, is to show that the Bangladeshi community, which is represented here by a woman wearing a niqab, and the traditional white working class East End community, the Cockneys, live together, work together in harmony, and that this is a really important part of the neighborhood. I want to say one other thing about this too. Stick was made sure to ask some of the Muslim elders in this area about this piece before he did it, because you might know that in Islam it is often forbidden to depict the human form in art. So Stick wanted to do this piece that was very much about celebrating the Bangladeshi community, but he didn't want to do it in a way that was completely against their culture and religion. So I think it's really cool that he asked, and the Muslim elders in the area, when he asked about this piece, said, yes, we think that's a great message. You're not a Muslim, so for you to depict a human form in your art, that doesn't violate anything. For us, we give you our blessings. So very famous piece. It's in British school textbooks these days, not to study the story of art, but to talk about multiculturalism, for which Brick Lane is often used as a case study. Fantastic piece, interesting story. We're going to see another piece by Stick. Depending on where you live, there might be a Stick in your neighborhood. He travels all over the world these days. Follow me. We're heading into the heart of some cool action. East End today, vibrant arts hub, 1960s and earlier, industrial, light industrial, tailors, and brewery. The largest brewery in the world in the 1890s is this brewery here, the Truman Brewery. Over 40 different warehouses in this area have now been converted into event space, markets, gig space, art galleries. Let's check out some of the stuff that's here. So the street art that's in this area is commissioned by the Truman Brewery. It used to be a brewery. These days it's an arts organization, and the kind of management is called the Old Truman Brewery, not to be confusing. Let's check out some of the pieces. Check out the big pink monster. He's called Crunchy, the Credit Crunch Monster. And Crunchy, people always think he's a Pokemon. Crunchy is by an artist called Ronzo. Ronzo is originally from Germany, but he came up in the 90s and early 2000s in Hackney. He does a lot of work about Hackney, or Crackney as people used to call it. And this dinosaur or monster was made in the in the 2008 global financial meltdown, because Ronzo said, listen, if we keep eating money, he's eating a pound, it's either a pound coin or a penny, I think it's a pound coin, that if Crunchy keeps eating money, then we're all going to become extinct like this dinosaur monster. So that's the moral of the story there. Absolutely love that piece by Ronzo. Check this one out here though. This is by Vils from Portugal. Vils does street art involving texture. So in another part of Shoreditch, we're not in Shoreditch, we're in Spitalfields. I'm a pedant about that. But in another part of Shoreditch, Vils had, on a building that's since been torn down, sadly, Vils actually took a chisel and a hammer and removed bits of the wall to create this relief. Like, it was really amazing. That is long gone, but this piece was commissioned by the Old Truman Brewery a couple of years ago. It is a Liechtenstein-esque concrete sculpture. I'm not sure what Vils was paid for this. I imagine it was quite a good amount, because this would have been really expensive to make. But yeah, absolutely love it from far away. Like, sometimes people just think it's a bunch of almost rocks, but then once, it's almost like one of those 3D puzzles. Once your eye realizes that it's actually a Liechtenstein style cartoon, a woman's face, it's really cool reaction to have. Now, when I tell people that there's a Banksy piece in the Old Truman Brewery, this is called Ely's Yard. When I tell people there's a Banksy piece here, they're always like, whoa, where? They're looking all over. They're like, is it Crunchy, the Credit Crunch? Is it the woman's face? It's actually this busted ass, worn out, tragic car. So this was a piece by Banksy. It was put here in about 2000. The pink car with kind of pink paint dripping down. You can still see that they've actually, this is so funny, because it's a Banksy drip, they've actually protected it with perspex, which is hilarious. But in the driver's seat, there used to be a canvas with like skeleton, with a scythe and a hood, and the whole thing was called like The Long Ride into Hell. And it looked really amazing. It is, over time, as Banksy became more and more famous throughout the late noughties, in around 2010, of course, everybody, oh my God, exit through the gift shop, Banksy. Kate Moss was buying his stuff at auction. It was a really big zeitgeist moment for Banksy. And when people realized that the skeleton in the driver's side window was Banksy, they nicked it, they stole it. Also, in case you've ever wondered, is street art commercially successful? Has street art reached the mainstream? Check it out. The Gucci wall. This is called the Gucci street art wall. If you live in Shanghai, New York, I think Paris or London, you've got a Gucci street art wall. It changes regularly. Ken Scott, sometimes it's actual pieces like murals that are artist choice, and I think this one's actually just a straight up ad campaign for Gucci. Artists want to be paid, man. You know, you can call an artist a sellout if they do a wall for Gucci, but you can also, if you're going to call them a sellout, you better give them some money to pay their rent. Some artists would say, over my dead body, I would never do any work for a corporate partner. No way, I'm not going to do like a street art wall for Budweiser. Are you kidding me? And other artists are like, oh, you're going to pay me? Cool, where do I sign? You know, it's personal choice. And it also depends on how close you are to having your electricity turned off. All right. Now behind me, two other giants of street art, and that is Invader and Shepard Fairey. Let's talk first about Invader. That is those pixelated Space Invader video game character. If you've been to Paris or you plan to go to Paris, you will know Invader. Invader is originally from Paris, and in the late 90s, what he would do is take the street signs. In Paris, the street signs are made out of tiles, and he would rearrange, like the street name signs rather, and he would rearrange them to create pixelated video game characters. And people would say, hey, like, you know, nice of you to make art, but please stop rearranging our street. No one can find out where we live. Today it would be dreadful. You'd never get your Uber Eats or your Deliveroo on time. But he's gone on to do these all over the world, sometimes using like little tiles, sometimes huge tiles like this one. He's actually got a video game app that is called, I believe, Space Invader or Invader Go, and you can use the app to scan all of the different invaders that you find around the world and reach different levels in this video game. So it's super fun to walk through almost any city in the world, any big city, you will see invaders. I have seen one on the Great Wall of China. I've seen one on the banks of the river Ganges in Varanasi in India, and there are so many. They're even in completely residential areas, so keep your eyes out for these. Follow me this way. Amara Pordios, she's from Sweden. I've seen her painting many times. She's super friendly, super lovely. This is a brand new piece by her. Looks absolutely fantastic. I love it. Remember I told you about Sellout Art, the guy, he sometimes makes sculptures out of trash and does those oil pastels. You always know you're about to see a new piece by Sellout if you see these paper butterflies. So I've seen all these, this is Dan Kitchener, by the way. The piece, I'll talk about him in a second, but all these butterflies, I thought to myself, okay, there's Sellout, and sure enough, here's a piece by Sellout right here. So the butterflies will usually only last a couple of days, either they get rained on or somebody takes them off the wall, but the piece will last a long time. So here is Dan Kitchener. Dan Kitchener does they always remind me of Blade Runner, which is a good thing to be reminded of whenever possible. And he does these pieces that are very like kind of futuristic Asian cities in the rain and neon. So neon reflecting in the rain. It sounds easier to do than it is, because if you try to make neon, the image in the kind of the fuzzy neon effect in the rain, it can end up looking really muddy, but you can see this is an absolutely amazing job that he's done. And being from a rainy city and living in a rainy city, that's a damn good representation of rain. Well, I absolutely love this one here by Ant Carver. This is my first time seeing this in person. Actually, no, it's not. I get my nails done near here. I've seen this a few times, but this is my first time really paying a lot of attention by it. Ant Carver, I want to say Ant Carver normally does paste ups, quite photorealistic ones. So I've never actually seen that artist do a mural like this. I love this the skull and the flowers and the candlesticks here. This has a very Renaissance feel to me. It feels like it should be in the National Gallery. Unbelievable. Right next to it is another, I mean, obviously this mural looks like it could belong in any art gallery. It is almost a photorealistic portrait of somebody. This takes a lot of talent. I don't want to say that doing a great tag, takes a lot of talent too. And artists like Mr. Sens say that doing their tag is sometimes more complex than doing the murals, because the tag is this interlocking series of geometric shapes. It takes a real mathematical mind to make amazing tags. So we're going to see some amazing tags coming up. But there's also a kind of street art that's a little bit more in the middle, that's still representing. So when I say tags, I'm talking about names or words, and usually that's graffiti. Like graffiti is words done with spray paint, it's done by hand. Other things have, you call murals or street art. But then you've got artists like a Discreet from Australia who's done these owls. And this is like almost a very early 90s style of graffiti street art mix. It's a very simple hand-drawn work. Now I don't want to say, again, Discreet has just as much talent as any other artist that we've seen. It's just a different style of art. It is much more conducive to like skateboards and street art, and this is really what we would have been looking at if we were on a street art tour in the early 90s. The big, more complex murals are a much more recent phenomenon. We talked about Mr. Sens. Now let's look at Sens art. Not related. Sens art here on the fence. All of these different faces, they are a married couple from South Africa who've done this amazing face, all these faces on the fence. By the way, this wall here by Ant Carver and that wall by Dan Kitchener, those walls change quite often. My colleague Nellie actually regularly schedules new artists in to paint there. They can last anywhere from 3 months to 2 years, but usually more like 3 to 6 months. Now, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or I should say the bird in the room. Now we all know I'm not the best at identifying birds, but I know the story of this one. I promise you that we're going to talk about this massive crane here. Now, this is by an artist called Roa. Roa is from Ghent in Belgium. Belgium has got an awesome street art scene. Ghent is a fantastic street art city. Now, Roa travels around the world. He's one of these artists that can do travel to different mural festivals, make a good living, and he paints animals that are from that area. So I have seen some of his work in Chicago, and he did, I think in Chicago, I saw him do like a raccoon. I can't remember. If you're from Chicago and you know what the piece I'm talking about, tell me the animal that he actually did, because I'm not sure which one it was. In other parts of London, he's done a fox, a hare, a rat, of course, and plenty of other types of British animals. A hedgehog, there was a really famous hedgehog in Shoreditch, but this one here, he was going to do a heron. So this is 2010. He's up on his pneumatic kind of cherry picker, going up, and he's painting it. And members of the Bangladeshi business community saw him painting this massive heron, which is a British water bird found all over the world, but we have a lot of them in England. And they said, Roa, you're painting a crane, the good luck bird of Bangladesh. Thank you so much for respecting our culture here on Brick Lane. And Roa said, oh yeah, okay, a crane. Now it was meant to be a heron, but in this one case, he said, sure, you know what? It's a crane. And he altered it a little bit. Those animals look a lot alike. He altered it a little bit so that it would look more like a crane, and boom, there you have it, the good luck crane of Brick Lane, or it's a heron. Now in time for the 2012 Summer Olympics, the local council, we're in Tower Hamlets right now, the local council, along with Newham, these are the two main councils that were really where the Olympic sites are, and they said, ooh, you know what? A lot of this street art and graffiti might intimidate people when they come to this part of town. So let's cover up a lot of the street art and graffiti. So on this mural, they put a massive poster that said, welcome to the Curry Mile. And they thought it would encourage people to come and eat curry here. It was the curry house owners who actually asked the council to take down the poster. They said, listen, this bird does more for our tourism and for our businesses. This bird does more for our businesses than any poster could ever do. Because look, we're here, all these other people are here. Thousands of people come here every week on street art tours, and they take pictures of the crane and they eat at the curry houses. They eat at the street food vendors. So the street art's actually very good for the economy in this area. So if we're talking about, you know, capitalist reasons to encourage street art and graffiti. Now there's one other massive piece next to the bird. Yeah, you can see that this is a huge break dancer. Now the break dancer is also a Queen's Guard. So a lot of people have a look at this and they see this guy breakdancing, and what they don't notice is that hanging on the fence next to him is his red serge jacket, and that's not his hair. What he's wearing is a bearskin hat. So it's a member of the Queen's Guard just taking off his jacket, doing a little casual breakdancing at the end of the day. So this artist is Martin Ron from Argentina, and this one went up, I think, in about 2014. So you can check out Martin Ron again, has painted all over Europe, so you might have some in your own home city. Check this out here. Just a little stencil, so sometimes it's door shut, so we'll be quite quiet, but just a stencil. So sometimes people say, I don't know what you mean by stencil. This is by Otto Schad from Austria, and however, I think he lives in London now, and you can see this, this is one of his two signature styles. One of them are these circular stencils with a silhouette in the middle, usually having to do with children and war or violence, and his other style is like these kind of intertwining ribbons. But with this one, sometimes people say, wait, what does this have to do with war or violence? We'll look at the flowers that the little girl is collecting, their little atomic symbols here. And you can see that, oh, his name has been blocked out. But yeah, this is by Osh. The wall across the street's normally painted up by Jim Vision, but right now you can see it's mostly empty. There's a lot of big tags on it. So when you come back, we might be looking at a massive Jim Vision mural. The last one that was here was Guardians of the Galaxy. It was kind of cool, but I want to show you something that is still in this wall. So you might look at it and think, oh, nothing to see here, just walk by. You always got to look out. Just gonna let these cars go. You've always got to have a look, because hidden in the wall, another little bit of hidden street art. I give kids like prizes on the tour for finding stuff like this. But this is an artist here called Gregos, who casts his own face. Part of it's been chiseled off, you can see. But this is Gregos, these little ones too. And he casts his own face. You'll see these he's from Paris. You'll see these all over Paris, all over Europe. I've seen them in so many European cities, but they're especially here all over London. And if you tag him, he's really, really receptive. He's the kind of person that is going to immediately say thank you, and he might even repost your picture to his many, many followers. Remember earlier, oh, geez, traffic. Remember earlier I talked about Sten and Oli? I said like that there was a little piece that my guests always love, even though I had never really noticed it. It's a pretty big one by Sten and Oli across the street. This street's especially busy because Brick Lane's blocked off for the market. It's not normally this busy, which is why I nearly stepped into my death. But this is the Sten and Oli piece that people absolutely love, and hey, you know, I think it's adorable as well. You can see it's got the little hearts going up. Quite cute. This is something I'm increasingly seeing is QR codes in the street art. I mean, hey, you know what? Go for it. I'm actually not sure who this artist is. It looks really familiar to me, but you can see this pop art style. I'm going to find out the name in a second. You can see this pop art style, very much like, again, kind of like Liechtenstein, like adverts of the 1960s pop art style. And you can see she's taking a drag on this. Oh, it's JK's. I knew it looked familiar. Yeah, JK's, Jayks. space Kaes. So, and again, very much that 1960s pop art comic book style, taking a drag on that Facebook. So again, we're in these nice quiet back streets, 1 block off of Brick Lane. It's leafy, it's quiet, nice place to live. Again, RX Skulls. I'm not sure who this is. There's Kurt Cobain. Oh, Neon Savage. Oh, okay. So again, it's not a style I'm familiar with Neon Savage. I'm used to him doing those cartoon characters with the 3 eyes, like the Tom and Jerry style cartoon characters. But here we've got Farrah Fawcett and Kurt Cobain. Interesting pairing. Yeah, people love getting out into the park in London. It's a nice sunny day, lots of green space. But we're not just walking through the park for the sake of green space. We're also going to check out the amazing tags, and there's people painting. If I know them, if you know the person painting, obviously go over and say hi, but it's usually not a great idea to go and bother somebody who's in the middle of working. Just make, you know, them feel a bit weird. Also, they're in the groove, they're working, they're painting. Some filming or something going on, not sure what's happening. But yeah, you can see all of these amazing tags as well. There's people painting right now. So the walls of Allen Gardens are always changing. I think they're filming a music video, but yeah, you can check out down the wall. See all these people painting. So what they're doing first is they're usually going to buff. That means they're going to put down a solid color. So you can see this periwinkle blue color that's gone down. That's called buffing. So you're going to buff because you don't want to paint over just part of the previous person's work. You want to paint over the whole thing. It's kind of a sign of respect. And it's not disrespectful to paint over somebody's work, especially on a wall like this that changes all the time. So yeah, they're going to buff first, and then they're putting down a kind of an idea. They usually have a sketch in their in a notebook. Sometimes they're doing it from just off the top of their head, but they probably thought about this in advance, and people are gonna then paint on top, looking amazing. You can see the layers and layers and layers of different tags, different street art. As I mentioned, these walls are usually tags. So you can see there's some old street art there, but murals and stuff, but these days are usually tags. And that's because like long rectangular walls are really good for tags. Squares and other shapes, good for murals. But anything could go anywhere, right? Let's see if yeah, more painting happening down here. If you're a weirdo like me and you like the smell of spray paint, it smells really nice. I think people sometimes are surprised at like how much I love the art, and you know, as a tour guide, I'm not like kind of clinical and dispassionate. I get really excited. I tend to do that on a lot of my tours, but I really love doing this tour. I love the food tour as well for the same reason, because I love to eat. But these pieces are absolutely stunning, absolutely amazing. Again, this one's art collaborating with Hicks. So I told you this one's art does black and white birds, but in this case, doing these kinds of stunning flowers, and then Hicks has done this almost Japanese, reminds Japanese, also a bit of Bob Ross pastel mountains and background, absolutely stunning. And then next to it here, Jim Vision, this woman with holding a silver balloon by Fanakapan. So collaboration between Jim Vision and Fanakapan. People are collaborating, working together all the time. Sometimes they actually paint at the same time as each other. Sometimes they also just work kind of one on top of the other, side by side, 2 different pieces, or they actually collaborate on one piece of art like these. I love this. This reminds me of like Mars Attacks. It's the real Dill and Gums and Tongue. Just looks like that 1950s exploitation style comic book art. Fantastic. The old Truman Brewery chimney in the distance. Airborne Mark painting there. I've seen him work before. Absolutely love his work. Again, I have a policy of not interrupting people unless they look like they want to chat, because I hate being interrupted when I'm working on something with concentration as well. And again, this one here, you, and again, kind of like almost He-Man style with a pig alien. Very cool. Oh, we gotta go look at this. I've seen these in the distance, but I haven't looked at them. I think I know who they are, though. Yeah. Oh my God, I love them. Okay, look up at the little fuzzy creature sitting there, okay? This is an artist called Lost Hills, and he makes pieces of street art featuring Jake from Adventure Time as other characters. I know that seems a bit weird, but like, so this is clear. It's actually the little face of Jake from Adventure Time, but he's like some kind of strange, like, a fuzzy creature. That just almost looks like a popple. You can tell I'm born in the 80s. Almost looks like a popple. Unbelievable. I've seen this in the distance and thought, is that Lost Hills? But it absolutely is. Look next to it. First of all, there's a little Homer Simpson. That's not Space Invader. It kind of is a Space Invader style, but it's not Space Invader. But I want you to look next to, look at the little pig that says love, the little green and white pig. That's another one by Love P. Penbrink. And guys, I've never seen this one. I know where there's about 20 of them. And that's a brand new one for me. So look, every single time I do this tour, I discover something new. I don't think that that's brand new. I just think I've never seen it before. So amazing. Some cool stuff here. See that little weird, creepy shape? That's Citizen Kane, who we saw earlier, making that little like colorful face with the lips pooched out. I wanted to show you these guys here. Charlie Burns. So when I started doing this tour, I was really lucky to be here right at the end of Charlie Burns' kind of life. And he would sit on his car, sit in his car with the door open, just around the corner on Sclater Street. And he always had a time to chat with absolutely everybody. He always wanted to know what you were up to, what you were doing. And I remember when I first moved to the UK, obviously I had a really strong Canadian accent. I think I still do, but people often think I'm Irish or they can't place my accent these days because I have an English husband. And yeah, he always just wanted to chat, and he wanted to teach me lots about the area. And a really, really kind man. And so this piece here has been redone by different artists really regularly to reflect Charlie Burns' legacy and history. So you've got a bit of Dan Kitchener in the back. I don't actually know who's done the Charlie Burns this time. Different artists have done it at different times. It gets tagged and ruined, and then a different London street artist from the area will come and paint a new one. And this is just as a bit of respect. This is the old East End meets the new East End. So the old kind of London Cockneys, Bangladeshi community meets the young hipsters, the artists, etc. And Carol Burns, his wife, as well. This one's been here for a while. This is by Nether 410 from Baltimore, not from the area, but he just took the learned about the history of the area from other street artists and decided to paint this tribute of Charlie Burns' wife. And one of the very few Roa pieces that's left in London that's untouched. So we had that huge crane earlier, and I told you that there was used to be a hedgehog, there used to be a big hare near me in Hackney, and now there's this, but this pig is here. I think the tattoo shop has gone defunct, maybe not. But yeah, this it's a wild boar or a pig, I'm not sure. Another cool one here is Saki and Bitches. Saki's Japanese, she's a Londoner, does Japanese. They're almost like manga, but they're also pop cartoony. And anyways, she's called Saki, and she calls these women, she draws her bitches, and there's quite a few of them. Really old one by Amara Pordios there. You can kind of see it's been covered by lots of different stuff, but Just look at this building for a quick second behind all the racks of clothing. The racks of clothing are just here because it's Sunday. This is part of the Brick Lane Market. But just have a look at that building, and that's how a lot of this area looked 10 years ago. So when artists like Banksy were here, when artists like Ronzo and Stick were starting out, and Mr. Sen's in this part of London 20 years ago, that's what a lot of this part of London used to look like. There were like feral cat colonies, old disused cars everywhere, and you could paint pretty much anywhere because no one cared, because it wasn't worth anything. Today, the street art is actually part of the cool and the cachet of the area, so now people allow the street art because it's part of the kind of branding of Brick Lane and Shoreditch. We are heading right into Shoreditch, by the way. As I mentioned, a lot of people call this entire area that we've been today Shoreditch, but that's incorrect. The dividing line for Shoreditch is just up the way. We've been so far in Whitechapel, Spitalfields, and Brick Lane. So yeah, again, down this street here, this is old disused railway arch. Brick Lane Market closing down for the day. Another one by Discreet there, the nice colorful owl. He always does owls. I think maybe in something else, but I've only ever really associate him with owls. But yeah, these are always different tags, changing really regularly. As I mentioned, some areas the stuff lasts a really long time, years. Other places it's just constant fresh turnover, like cell renewal. Yeah, it's definitely sellout. It's like some kind of a dragon. It's made out of feathers and a boa, and that's, I'm gonna say 90% sure it's sellout. If it's not sellout, and you know it's not, tell me in the comments, but that's just an educated guess. Yeah, it's got to be sellout. No, you know what? It could actually be Jonesy. I've seen, the reason I say it could be Jonesy is because it's got like styrofoam teeth on the dragon, and I've seen Jonesy work with styrofoam. So it's either going to be, I reserve the right to change my answer. I actually think it's Jonesy, and that's the guy who made like the little sculptures on top of the pole and those little weird skulls that were embedded into the brick. I think that's the same guy. That's just a guess. Little back patio here for eating at Dirty Bones. That's new. We don't want to take too much, but you could just see, just below the street sign there, you can see the woman's face with all the different bubbles. This is a reference to a Salvador Dali painting of Gala in spheres, and it's Jimmy, aka Jimmy C, doing that. Another one by Jim Vision. So we've seen quite a few of his. All of these new tables are new to me. By the way, if you're watching this, are you seeing any pieces that I'm not talking about and you want to know who they are? Maybe I've walked right by them. Ask me in the comments, and I will either tell you or I'll do some research and pretend like I knew the whole time. Just kidding, of course. And of course, remember, if you do want to come on any of our tours, please book, let me know if I can answer any questions. And if you'd like to leave me a tip for doing this tour, it's again Jessica Tour Guide, all one word, @gmail.com. You can reach me on that and ask me questions about tours, and you can also send me a tip on PayPal. That would be really lovely. Now this is another piece by aka Jimmy C. Remember at the beginning of the tour, we saw that piece that he did of the granddaughter and the grandfather that used to be called Joe's Kid. Well, that one is about 8 years old. This one is about 2 years old. See how it's a really similar effect? That previous one was all of those drips and drabs and dots, and it was kind of creating this mosaic expressionism Monet feel to it. This one is also got all these different elements combining into a mosaic, but it's all of these birds. Again, what's with street art and birds? So many birds. All of these different elements creating into this one face. And I don't know, I absolutely love this. I think it's so cool. Across the street, and again, we don't want to zoom in on anyone eating, but if you look just here, you can see we'll get a better view just here. This is Shepherd Ferry. So again, one of the most famous street artists in the world. This was done, he came they did this about 2 years ago, and it was to commemorate, I want to say 30 years doing street art, but it might actually have been his 20th anniversary. But he did 3 or 4 new pieces around London. One of them's on Mare Street. There's, I think, another one in Shoreditch, and then this one as well.
Hey buddy, how you doing?
I promised you that we would see another piece by Stick. Remember, S-T-I-K, and he calls his creations his sticks, S-T-I-X. And here's one here, 3 stories tall. I absolutely love the way that you can tell what this character is thinking, even though it just has 2 dots for eyes and it doesn't have a nose. Yet there's something about the pose of his body language. There's something about his downcast eyes. It's incredibly expressive. So, I mean, I can draw a stick figure, but I don't think I can draw a stick figure that says and does as much as Stick can. And that's probably why Stick is an internationally famous artist, and I am a street art tour guide. Another one here, another hugely famous street artist right at the end of our tour is Terry Noir. There's Terry Noir. Terry Noir is from Paris. Again, a lot of big, heavy-hitting street artists from Paris, and he is most famous. If you seem like you recognize his work, you probably recognize it from the west side of the Berlin Wall. So as early as 1986, a full 3 years before the Berlin Wall came down, street artists were painting on the western side of the Berlin Wall, and that was, Terry Noir was the very first one. And so some of his pieces have huge meaning, not just in terms of street art history, but in terms of the history of the world Western civilization. And Terry Noir now has a studio in London. You can take classes with him. So if you want to learn how to create these kind of Terry Noir-esque faces, you can work alongside him. And I saw him doing these ones here and a few others around the corner with school kids from the local area. So he works with kids as well. Remember our little bunny with the hand grenade? There's another one there. Love him. So one final little bit of street sculpture is Milata, which in Spanish means my cans, and Milata is from Barcelona and creates these sculptures out of tin cans, soda cans, pop, I'm Canadian, I say pop cans, tuna cans, all kinds of different size cans, and you can actually commission them and buy them on Milata's website. That's ME_LATA on Instagram. So finally, we're here at the end of our tour, and we are at Cargo Nightclub, which is on Rivington Street, right in the heart of Shoreditch. And in 2002, Banksy painted 2 pieces in the courtyard of the nightclub. And the nightclub certainly knew within a couple of years the valuable pieces that they had on their hand, so they covered them with this plexiglass. Also, the gates are locked at night. Unless security guards are here, so it prevents them from getting vandalized. Now, this Banksy piece is really beloved. It's got his signature kind of dry sense of humor. This wall is a designated graffiti area, and you can see that we've got this kind of clown-nosed poodle here. Lots of t-shirts and prints have been made of this one. Now, before we continue on, I wanted to mention, of course, that the most common question I ever get on tour is, who is Banksy? There's lots of theories out there. There's theories that Banksy is an arts collective. There's theories that Banksy is a woman. And there's theories that Banksy is a couple of different British artists. But the most common theory, and the one that's kind of gained traction over the last couple of years, is that Banksy either is or has a big connection to Robert Del Naja, who is the lead musician in Massive Attack. The similarities are definitely there. Banksy claims to have hung out with Del Naja in the past. They're both from Bristol. They're both involved in the music scene in the 90s. What we know for sure is that Banksy painted all over Bristol and all over the East End of London and other places in the country throughout the 90s into the 2000s, before becoming really famous in about 2004 when Kate Moss bought a bunch of his paintings at auction. By 2010, his film Exit Through the Gift Shop was nominated for an Oscar. It's a documentary or a mockumentary. And since then, Banksy's work has only increased in value. He loves stunts, he loves political commentary, and he loves taking kind of typical pop culture figures and turning them on his head. And Banksy is probably the most famous street artist that there is. And personally, I think one of the reasons that he is so famous is that he's anonymous. It's kind of part of the shtick. Now, this piece here in Cargo is one of the best preserved in London. There's a few others in London. I mean, the car that we saw, not great, but there's another one here in the Cargo courtyard as well. And that is his master's voice, HMV, also from around 2002. Also behind plexiglass, tons of famous prints of this one, t-shirts, etc., that you can find and purchase. Or if you're in the area or you come on one of my tours, why not come and see the original? It has been an absolute pleasure. I say that from the bottom of my heart. I love guiding tours for big groups of people. I love guiding tours for one person. And I really have enjoyed taking you guys around Shoreditch, Spitalfields, Brick Lane, and a bit of Whitechapel to experience the street art. Some of it's ugly, some of it's weird, some of it's wonderful, some of it's corporate, some of it is underground, some of it is fully illegal, some of it is offensive, and all of it is a really important part of what makes the East End one of the world's most exciting street art destinations. So it's here that I'm going to say goodbye. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and follow Free Tourist by Foot. And hey, you can follow me on my Instagram at Dear Jessica, like you're writing me a letter. You can also send me any tips that you'd like for this tour at jessicatourguide@gmail.com on PayPal. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your day.